running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians.
Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. As always, I'm joined by Chris Paul. Chris, how are you doing, sir?
Just another evening in paradise. And by that, I mean I have spent most of the last 24 hours thinking about a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, I felt guilty. I was like, hey, we're both going to read tariff ruling before the show. And I've tried on multiple occasions. I had a couple plane rides today, and I had to download on my computer. And every time I tried to start reading it, it's like, I cannot get interested in it. I can't get invested in it. It just did not. And that's a weird thing for a document not to like get my jimmies rustling. So I don't know, man. You're gonna have to carry a discussion over that.
It was so daunting. It was 170 pages.
That's nothing.
Okay.
I read through the entire like 1,200 page or 1,400 page bill back in gosh, what was it? That was December of 2024.
You actually sat down and read the whole thing?
Yeah, I skipped through it first and then I read through it all just so I didn't miss anything. I've done that with a few big documents before, man. That's like where you get the goods.
That's crazy. Yes, it is where you get the goods. And I'm glad that I read it. It was interesting in some sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that you read it too.
Yeah.
But I did not. And it is what it is. But we're still going to talk about the tariff stuff.
Yeah.
But in line with that, there are a lot of converging anti-Trump ops, clickbait ops that seem very coordinated on the fallout from the Epstein stuff. So I think we should talk about that a little bit. We got, what else? We're going to go to war with Iran, according to the CIA. So that's real fun.
Or according to some guy that like worked for the CIA, right?
Yeah, something like that. We'll play the video. We also got some CIA revisions that took place. That story's interesting. Talk about that a little bit. We'll see what else. We'll see where it goes. So we already got some gifted subs. Thank you, DevHouse1, for gifting those. And then Miller Biz for $2 says, hi, everyone. I know it's going to be a terrific show. Spelled terrific, like tariffs. Very clever.
Wow.
Yeah, it should be a terrific show. Yeah, man, let's get a quick word from our sponsors, and then I don't even know. We could start with the tariff thing since, you read it. Give you the floor to lay it out for us.
I could do like a 4-hour episode on just that case.
Oh, please don't.
No, I won't.
Can we do like a half an hour?
No, I just meant like if I was doing my show.
Yeah,
I would never do that. I would never do that to your show.
You could probably, this is our show, first of all, but I feel like you could take any topic and speak to it for 4 hours if you really wanted to.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
But I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying you could do it.
Fair enough.
But anyway, quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll start cracking away. And first up, we got Patriot Protect. Today, it's scarily easy for criminals, scammers, or anyone with bad intentions to find your personal information online. Your home address, phone number, workplace, even your family members' names are exposed with just a few clicks. When this much information is public, scams aren't random. Hundreds of people search sites and data brokers compile profiles linking your name, address, phone number, relatives, and online behavior. Scammers use these profiles to decide who to target and how to approach them. That's how identity fraud starts, long before the damage actually shows up. Patriot Protect removes your personal data from the internet, wiping it from Google and every major website where bad actors search for targets. Patriot Protect finds and deletes your personal information from 240 plus people search engines and data brokers. Once your profiles are eliminated, their search and destroy protocol runs continuous monitoring, so every new exposure is detected and wiped immediately. It's the peace of mind of having your own security team, all for about the cost of keeping your porch lights on. If you want to take control of your personal information and reduce your exposure, go to patriot-protect.com/DPH and use code Badlands for 15% off all Patriot Protect plans. That's patriot-protect.com/DPH, promo code Badlands. And we also got Native Path Collagen. Want to take a second to talk about Native Path Collagen. First of all, collagen isn't just about nails or skin. As we get older, our bodies stop producing as much of this critical protein, starting in our late 20s, as a matter of fact. And that's when joints can start aching, recovery slows down, and everything just feels harder. This specific collagen is grass-fed, pasture-raised, and designed to support joints, bones, mobility, skin, hair, all the stuff we tend to lose with age. No weird taste, no complicated routine. Just add this to your coffee or smoothie and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You're done. Just part of your daily routine from there on out. Right now, get a special bundle deal at a fraction of the retail price and free shipping. This offer is only available at getnativepath.com/Badlands. Again, that's getnativepath.com/Badlands. If you've been thinking about supporting your body instead of just pushing through the aches, go check it out. The link's in the description of this video. Again, getnativepath.com/Badlands. All right, man. Tariff decision. Took a while to get it. Like, we were expecting this months ago. Finally got it, what, yesterday or the day before? Friday. What day is it today? Saturday. We got it Friday, yesterday. And it was a weird one because, you know, I watched it on my show. We watched it live. And the way Trump, like the vibe I was getting from Trump, it was like he was very disappointed, it seemed, or upset. And maybe that's too strong a word. He just seemed like disappointed that the ruling didn't go his way. And for months leading up to this, he's like, if they rule the opposite way, it's going to destroy our country. But yeah, while he was saying that, you had Scott Besson. There's multiple clips of him out there talking about, well, you know, we have multiple options to establish the tariff infrastructure, even if they don't rule this way. It almost makes you wonder why they set it up this way in the first place. It's almost as if the whole intent was to, you know, get some constitutional definitions out there. But let me show you this clip from Besson back in December. Real quick. This is December 8th.
But if you lose, what do you do?
But the ultimate goal here, that the revenue, and I have been very consistent on this, that tariffs are a shrinking ice cube. The ultimate goal is to rebalance trade and to bring back domestic production.
Okay,
look, we can recreate the exact tariff structure with 301s, with 232s, with I think that's a 122.
But not permanently.
Permanently.
You think you're...
Well, the 122s aren't permanently, but the others, we can do it.
So he says, like, they didn't need this ruling anyway, but still Trump was a little disappointed, it seemed. But that press conference he gave yesterday was so funny because he was like, while he was coming off a little bit upset to me anyway, I know not everybody interpreted it that way, he was also like, well, I'm going to tariff these countries even harder now. Like, I don't care what the Supreme Court says. We're going to tariff them even harder. And he had some comments about their foreign influence and stuff. We can get into that too. But yeah, so having read through the ruling, Chris, let's hear your thoughts.
Okay, so I think we have to like kind of set the table a little bit, and Andrew Ross Sorkin helped us do that right there. And he was kind of subtly making the point that they wouldn't be able to just continue setting tariff policy from the executive branch. They would eventually need Congress to do that because Congress is assigned all responsibility for levying taxes and duties and imposts. And underneath all of that is tariffs. And so that is what I think the regime and uniparty interest is in this issue. And in this case is make sure that the Congress is the body responsible for setting tariffs, because the Congress is the body, it seems to me, that they still have control over, and Trump is the executive. They don't have control over him. So the goal then is to limit the executive's ability to apply tariffs. And so that's like just the pragmatic approach.
Yep.
Like just what they're trying to accomplish in this very interest or this very instance. And so Trump wants to do the tariffs, and he's got other means of doing the tariffs, and he's going to pursue those other means. But ultimately, does Trump want to have an executive that can just use tariffs willy-nilly whenever he wants to set policy in foreign trade? And for the rest of it, does he need the emergency approach? And that's what this case in particular is about. He's declared these national emergencies, and you can think whatever you want of whether or not they are actually national emergencies, one being fentanyl coming into the country, the other one being an unbalanced trade relationship. So he's said both these things constitute national emergencies, and under these national emergencies, he's going to apply these tariffs elsewhere. And so the idea here, and the idea in some of the majority opinion, is that only Congress has the power to levy these tariffs. They did not delegate the executive the power to levy tariffs. And so the power is going to shift back to Congress here. Now, in general, I don't really have any problem with that. And if we're going to go back to the original constitutional form, that is what the Constitution says. The Congress has the power to levy these tariffs. And so if Trump is happy to move the country back to that original constitutional form, well, I don't think that having the tariff power taken away under IEEPA is going to make him too sad. Now, like, we can go into like 20 different aspects of this, but I think they're all super interesting. And I think that the important thing is to keep track of like from what perspective we're viewing all of these things, because there's a bunch of different perspectives at play. And I think that baseline is we have to keep in mind the good twin versus evil twin construct of how we're viewing the world here, rather than the way it's getting described to us and the way we've been conditioned to think of these things. And so I'll pause and we can kind of get
So what you said right there first, like, I don't disagree that it's a bad thing to try to get back to the original Constitution. And, you know, if this is how it was originally designed, like, that's great. But giving more power to this specific Congress, which, you know, we believe is illegitimate and captured and all these things, while we don't have free and fair legitimate elections, that's more of a tougher pill to swallow. While I understand we can look at it bicameral as we do with most things, I understand the plus side of it. The negative side of it is still that reality. So that kind of sucks. On one hand, it would kind of give the opportunity for Congress to be like, oh, well, yeah, we don't want to be implementing these tariffs. We're going to strip all those away and then try to do that. You know, that would probably be a little bit of a wake-up pill for some people. Maybe they'll question like, oh, hey, why does not Congress not want to have more of an even trade balances, you know, with these countries? What's going on here? But on the flip side of that, I don't know if enough people are that heavily invested to recognize or even care, considering all the other stuff that's going on in the world. So I don't know, that's the first thought after what you just said there is, you know, yes, we're going back to a more constitutional form of government, but this is almost like a step that doesn't really matter unless we fix a bunch of other steps first, one of those being our election system.
Yes, in terms of an ultimate solution, you're totally right that would have to happen before this fixes anything. But so with the good twin, evil twin thing in mind, right? We have this global regime, this top-down, centralized, one world, liberal, international, rules-based order, and the centralized, controlled economy that comes under that, right? Everything is a product of the system and its rules, and it applies these rules everywhere so that the economy works like globally, like a well-oiled machine. So that is one view of how these things operate. And then the other view of how these things operate is we have sovereign leaders in these sovereign nations that operate for the benefit of the nation and the people of that nation. And then those nations have to figure out how to operate with one another. And so under the centralized control system, one of the ways that the control is, I don't know what the right word for it is, actuated or something, is through the use of sanctions. And IEEPA and the Trading with Enemies Act before it, which is the predecessor, which is referenced many times throughout the opinions and the dissent, the concurrence and whatever, those all enable the sanctions regime. And it cites many times, aside from Nixon, no one else has tried to use this apparatus at all to levy tariffs. It's always been about sanctions. And they love controlling things through sanctions because the central banks ultimately are the body that enforces all of that. They can control all of these things through the different economic activities. They can cut off and freeze people in one country and another and just operate the entire system from the centralized entity.
Yeah. Can we elaborate real quick on the difference between those two tools? So both sanctions and tariffs are used by governments. Sanctions are more so like restrictions, government imposed restrictions, cutting people off of trade, essentially a punishment of sorts, where the tariffs are more of like taxes on imported goods, right? Supposedly to raise government revenue and whatnot.
Yes. And the other thing about tariffs is that they can be negotiated essentially in real time in a bilateral way. So the United States, Donald Trump, can have a negotiation with China about the tariff. And if the negotiation doesn't go the way he wants it to, and China needs us as a trade partner more than we need China, he can set a more advantageous trade relationship based on tariffs with China. And he can do the same thing with Russia, and he can do the same thing with India, and he can just keep going down the list and use whatever leverage he needs using the tariff as the leverage point to be able to reset all these relationships in a bilateral fashion with all these different countries. Whereas under the centralized control structure, tariffs between two countries don't make any sense. They might levy tariffs and try to balance them in a certain way to elicit certain outcomes, but it's not based on the good of one country in trade with another country. They're just trying to balance the global economy in its entirety, which is how we end up with like unbalanced trade with all these different countries, and us subsidizing entire industries in Canada, for instance, to keep Canada as a nation economically viable when they couldn't be without the United States. That's a product of that centralized, controlled economy spread out over the globe. Our bilateral trade relationship with Canada would produce something entirely different, and we would not end up subsidizing them because that wouldn't make any sense at all. So these are kind of, I see sanctions and tariffs as like opposite ends of a spectrum, one being the ideal tool of a top-down, centrally controlled economy that is accountable to these globalized central banks all operating on the dollar. And then on the other end, yeah, exactly. And then on the other end, with the tariffs, you have a bilateral trade relationship, and these are used directly as leverage to bring countries into line for what, an economy like ours commands, because we are getting exploited all over the world when we are subject to that top-down centralized economy.
That's such a good point, because what we've seen from previous administrations, and even just using Russia as an example, Russia was almost forced to de-dollarize completely because of the sanctions put against them. And the global regime has done this all over the place, all over the world. They use sanctions way more than tariffs. But Trump has flipped the script on this, and this is what General Quast said at Deadwood, at GART, when he got up there and said how Trump is going to like wield the economic weapon of tariffs, and that's what he's going to use to coerce these countries to, basically correct bad behavior. He's almost using it like the global regime would use sanctions. It's a complete switch of the script, though. That's fascinating. You said that. I wonder if we could find a chart showing, I'll look for this, like the number of sanctions used per presidential administration versus number of tariffs, and see like where Trump compares in both those areas. Because I bet they're complete opposites.
Yeah, they could be. I don't know. And I would not suggest that tariffs aren't used otherwise, but I think that they are, but they're so unbalanced. It's like tariffs in that picture are a tool to balance things out the way the centralized controlled economy needs them to be. So all of that is operating on behalf of this global entity, whereas, negotiating tariffs directly in a bilateral sense with other nations is not that model at all. And I think Trump's trying to move to that model. All of the obstacles that are put up in front of Trump and his ability to do that are to preserve this, top-down centralized controlled economy.
Yeah, I'm looking this up right now per year. You should get into some of the Nixon stuff that you were talking about, because you were sending me screenshots earlier.
Yeah,
something like the Bretton Woods stuff and the Smithsonian stuff, and there's just some very interesting, digs you were down.
We're gonna do like the hardest coincidence that ever happened.
Just a coincidence.
Well, I know that's like the best thing that you can do online is like find some information that implies something, and then ask people if it was a coincidence, or state authoritatively that that it wasn't a coincidence. And then you get like all the retweets in the world. I think that's how social media still works, right?
Yeah. So stupid. You just find a stupid random connection. You're typically wrong about the connection, but you call it a coincidence anyway. Let me show you this real quick too. This is just Perplexity putting this together. Sanctions and tariffs data overview going back to Bush. These are new SDN designations, approximate, versus tariff revenue. And they're increasing. Trump 1 starts, they do increase, but then 2020 goes down for sanctions. But then they get really heavy up around 2024 with Biden. Like, look at this. 2023, 2024. Look at all those new sanction designations compared to tariff revenue. And then you get into Trump and look at the dramatic decrease in both those areas.
Interesting.
An increase in tariffs, decrease in
Yeah.
new sanctions. I don't know how accurate this is, but
that's the sort of pattern you would expect,
yeah.
I think. Yeah. So one of the interesting things, and this is the Nixon thing. Let me see if I can actually find it in the PDF so I can just pull up the part of the case. So
I could probably find it too. Nixon?
IEEPA, its predecessor was the Trading with the Enemies Act. And Nixon in 1971, in August of 1971, he used that to impose a 10% tariff. Now, the reason he did that was to rebalance relationships with all the other countries of the world, because at the same time, that was when the end of the gold convertibility happened. And someone who's going to know the history and have read The Creature from Jekyll Island more times than I have, and probably correct me at some point in this little, in the process of me laying out the dig that I was doing earlier. But this is like simultaneous, these events happening. And so I think it's really interesting that in kind of the broader context that I just laid out, that TWEA is mentioned so many times throughout this. This is the only example of a president using the ability to regulate importations. And that's like what the key phrase that most of this case is fought over. This is the only other time that a president has used that for tariffs. And he was using it in a specific instance to rebalance trade relationships after the gold convertibility stopped. And so then countries start devaluing their currency and the rest of it. We've talked about that with the Mar-a-Lago Accord, what Stephen Moran is doing, and the devaluing of the dollar that we see right now in the Trump administration. And again, somebody's going to be more expert at this stuff than I am.
I doubt it.
I'm pretty sure that's true. So TWEA started in 1917, which was right in the heart of World War I, a few years after the Federal Reserve is brought in. So we have a major economic upheaval at that point and a world war alongside it. And then 16 years later, we have 1933, another major economic upheaval in the lead into World War II. And at this time, Germany is dealing with the same issues in terms of tariffs, and the global regime, the global banking regime, wants Germany to stop levying tariffs. They don't want to let Germany out of the global economic infrastructure and to be kind of its lone sovereign nation, setting up its own trade deals. So, and this is all in the transfer agreement by Edwin Black and the rest of it. You can read that so that nobody gets like too triggered on any of this. But essentially these stories about the rise of anti-Semitism in Germany and all of these various atrocity tales and the rest of it were used to turn the world against Germany from doing business with Germany in order to crash the German economy, which then happened, and et cetera. I think we're going to see some of that stuff attempted in the United States. We've talked a number of times about the World War II, the Germany story, the rise of Hitler and the rest of it being paralleled onto Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the new Hitler. We are the new Germany in the rise to World War II, the tariffs and all the rest of that. Every month, there's a new story about how this is exactly what was happening in World War II Germany. But so we have 1917, 1933, then 1971, and now. And this Trading with the Enemies Act into IEEPA, into now, this is like a through line. That through line has been sanctions versus tariffs. And now we are seeing kind of the other bookend of that, the world moving back into the tariffs and the bilateral relationships and the decentralization of the global economy. And so all of that is undergirding this decision.
You know, this part here, just reading this, the timing, right here, the words regulate and importation were added to the Trading with the Enemies Act in 1941. That would have been World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what I did read in this, they were talking about the president's ability to implement tariffs during peacetime. And so they added those words during wartime, technically. But the interesting part of this is that I do believe, and we've talked about this many times, is that we could make a successful argument, I think, that we are at war, a different kind of warfare, obviously, but always, at all times. And so the fact that they were toning in on that, and Trump didn't really argue, at least from what I saw, maybe you having read it, did they argue at all about the wartime aspect of this? Trump said?
No, not really. But Roberts mentioned something. I can't remember where. I'm trying to find it right now in my highlights. Oh, here it is.
Actually, put your screen up.
Yeah, maybe I can pull this up in the PDF. Sometimes the PDFs are a pain in the ass to share on this. No, maybe this will work. Does that work?
Let's see.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yep.
Okay. So Roberts writes in the principal opinion, the government thus concedes, as it must, that the president enjoys no inherent authority to impose tariffs during peacetime, and it does not defend. And you got to take that literally. The government, in the case it presents, is not defending the challenged tariffs as an exercise of the president's war-making powers. So that's like not the argument that they're using. And they might have just bowed out of that, and that's fine. The United States, after all, he writes, is not at war with every nation in the world. The government instead relies exclusively on IEEPA. Now, he says that the government is not at war with every country in the world, but there's a sense in which the government or the United States is at war with all the countries in the world, and is also joined in that war by all the countries in the world. Like, that's really how I think of it. And I think that that is a more realistic way to think of it than country versus country versus country, which is the way we've been conditioned to think of it.
Yeah.
If our country is multiple things, then China is, then Russia is, then Saudi is, then Brazil is, then Japan is. It doesn't matter which country you're picking out. There is a good twin faction and an evil twin faction in that country, and the same conflict is happening in all of these countries.
It's very interesting of him to even say that, because one, it's not the Supreme Court or judicial branch's job to state whether or not we're at war. Number two, we've had this discussion so many times about there can exist a war without there being a declaration of war. It can all be based on the actions of another country or countries or the entire world or whatever. So it's just weird that he even included that to me.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It just also, the context is kind of like whether or not Trump has the ability under this statute to levy tariffs of whatever amount he wants for however long he wants, whenever he wants, against any country he wants. And so Roberts is saying, well, you're not at war with all of these countries, so you can't possibly claim the right under this national emergency to levy tariffs on all these countries. And it's fine to take the point for just that, but I do think it is more than that.
Question, I think I saw this somewhere online, I could be wrong, but is it true that Obama used this same authority when it came to like Obamacare stuff, and then Biden used it when it came to vaccine stuff?
It does actually mention, and this is in Kavanaugh's dissent.
That's right.
Yeah, this is page 109 of the document. In recent years, Presidents George W. Bush, Obama, and Biden have all imposed tariffs on foreign imports under those statutory authorities. And I think that he was referring to the Trade Expansion Act and the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and the Trade Act of 1974. So it's not that Congress never delegates the power to tariff to the executive. And that is that's kind of part of the argument here. One of the big discussions in all of the opinions was whether or not the major questions doctrine applies, like whether or not under like truly important and impactful is a terrible word, but it kind of gets at the right thing. Like if this is a really big issue that's going to have a major impact, well, then that's a major question. Like if it's going to affect the entire economy and trillions of dollars potentially in trade deals and the rest of it, well, then the idea is that if it's a bigger question, then Congress has to like more explicitly delegate the power to the president. You know, like they can't use a generalized term if the president is going to take that generalized term and then do something totally extraordinary with that generalized power. In that case, they want Congress to specifically say, under this condition, you need to tariff this way.
Let me read this because I think this is the part that I was talking about. I think I did read, this is, I believe, Kavanaugh, and I think I read some of this. Unpack that last claim first. My concurring colleagues contend that as a matter of straight up statutory construction, IEEPA does not grant the president the power to impose tariffs, posted 7. In doing so, they make thoughtful points about the statute's text and context, but their approach today is difficult to square with how they have interpreted other statutes. Dissenting in past major questions cases, they've argued that broad statutory language granting powers to executive officials should be read for all it is worth. Yet now, when it comes to IEEPA's similarly broad language granting powers to the president, they take a more constrained approach. And maybe this right here is like the whole point, because he goes on to list the vaccine mandate for 84 million American people. I think there's something in here. Yeah, COVID-19, landlord-tenant relations, Biden versus Nebraska.
Yeah, Gorsuch was basically just...
is this Gorsuch here? This must be.
This is Gorsuch, yeah. And he like at length is just calling out all of his colleagues for their hypocrisy on how they decide these cases. And Gorsuch seems to be arguing explicitly for a return of these powers to the Congress. And, you know, people are jumping on board with the Kavanaugh dissent and the Thomas dissent, and maybe for good reason. I mean, Justice Clarence Thomas is somebody that virtually everybody respects, especially on the conservative side of things. The Kavanaugh opinion was specifically supported by Donald Trump over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But the Gorsuch thing is interesting. I thought the Roberts opinion was actually really interesting and well written and well argued. So, you know, Trump has expressed a lot of anger in this happening. I think maybe that's involving other things. I mean, it seems like he's referring to various machinations that we just don't have access to with this stuff. That's how I read it. I mean, when he's talking about these people's families should be ashamed of them, I mean, either that's totally over the top language, which is fine. He does that sometimes. And maybe he's just making his point. And maybe he wants all of these claims to go viral so people read the opinions or they think about this, or, you know, all the news coverage that says that that the Supreme Court ruled Trump was doing illegal things by implementing these tariffs in the first place. It's all just such retarded slop that like the mainstream media on both sides dishes out. It's not like Fox News is handling this more intelligently than MSNBC is. They're just, or MS Now, I think it's called.
Yeah, so dumb.
Yeah. They're just taking the same underlying claims about what happened in this case, and they're expressing one side's opinion or the other side's opinion, but the underlying claims are wrong.
Yeah, it's clear nobody has an idea what's going on. Like there are people out there that are saying that, you know, citizens should be getting refunds for tariffs now, which is utterly retarded. But take a listen to this. This is one of the more interesting things I thought Trump said, and nothing to do with the actual tariffs. Oops, that's the wrong one. Nothing to do with the actual tariffs themselves, but the SCOTUS themselves.
What will you say to foreign nations who seek to renegotiate their deals? And what did you mean a moment ago when you said that the Supreme Court has been swayed by foreign interests?
Well, I think that foreign interests are represented by people that I believe have undue influence, have a lot of influence over the Supreme Court, whether it's through fear or respect or friendships, I don't know. But I know some of the people that were involved on the other side, and I don't like them. I think they're real slime balls. And got to do what's right for the country. You got to do what's right for the Constitution. That's why I respect so much Justice Thomas and Alito, Kavanaugh, because they not only dissented, their dissent is so strong. When you read their dissent, You know, a lot of times you'll read a dissent and it's like, well, you don't know, it could go either way. There's no other way. The good news is it's like just.
Can I point out here, there's zero chance that Trump actually read the dissent in this amount of time or any of the rulings, because he was at a governor's meeting, I believe. First, the ruling came out. He got like handed a note that it came out, and he like made a comment allegedly like, "Oh, it's just so disappointing what they did." And like within an hour, he was here, live giving this press conference to talk about it. So I don't think he read it. But did you catch the part where he was like, I have great reading comprehension. I'm the best reader there is." It was so funny. I'll see if I can find that. But yeah, he says that there's foreign influence, and that's like not a small thing to say about SCOTUS. And then when he's asked further about it to elaborate again, he's like, "Well, you'll find out soon," which he says that fairly often when it comes to some of this stuff. He said that about election fraud stuff for like 8 years now.
So the foreign influence part is really interesting. Well, first of all, we have a foreign occupation that runs the administrative state in our federal government. Like the federal city of Washington, D.C. is a foreign occupation. But beyond that, then you have the foreign interests of places like the European Union, who do not want to have these tariffs upsetting the centralized controlled economy. And so if those interests are leaning on these justices in some way, maybe that's what he's implying. I mean, I don't think Trump is mad at this decision. I don't think he's surprised about this decision. I think he was going over the top in his comments yesterday to make it seem like that, but they know that they have other ways of enacting these tariffs. He already did 10% tariffs across the board and then changed it to 15 this morning. So I don't think he's too worried about that. And Kavanaugh's dissent, as he notes, lays out a bunch of other ways through statute that the president can implement these tariffs. So if they don't want tariffs, are they going to challenge him in relation to each one of these statutes? And if they do, and if they are able to thwart his tariffs, what does that do to the statutes? And I hope, and listen, this is my hopeful speculative outlook on this, but I hope that all of those statutes end up nullified because of exactly this. Like, these statutes do not give the president the ability to do these things. Yeah. And I suppose that they would still claim that they do give the president the ability to levy sanctions, but none of these statutes are ultimately legitimate in the first place. So, I want to see everything returned back to the Constitution. Kavanaugh and Thomas, like, for all of the good that they might do in their conservative readings of the Constitution and the way they approach their opinions and the rest of it, they spent most of their time focused on history and court precedent and how statutes have been applied before. Yeah. And none of those things are the Constitution.
The interesting part about this whole thing too is, like, Trump basically came out immediately after raising those tariffs and was like, "I don't give a shit what you say, Supreme Court. You can't enforce it. Like, your ruling doesn't actually matter because you cannot enforce your own ruling. I am the enforcement of your ruling. And so if you disagree with me, I'm going to do what I want." And he's kind of proving that. And so I'm curious to see, like, if he continues to do this and, maybe starts defying, in a sense, even if it's under different statutes, Congress is going to try to rein him in, or he's going to get more lawsuits. But if they don't fix the elections, this is probably going to be one of those topics that they try to use to impeach him over, by, in a sense, define Supreme Court.
Well, for sure. And, some of what we were talking about last week with the chicken, egg, chicken thing, and how they will reframe any of these things as part of the PR ploy to erase Trump's mandate. That's what some of the messaging is all about. They say, when Trump illegally, maybe you have that War Room cold open. The cold open on War Room today crushed it. But some of these comments that are coming out from these MS Now hosts, you can really see where they're trying to go with this thing. They're trying to sell to the country the idea that the president levying these tariffs is not only like not allowed based on this, like decision that just falls on one side or the other of a very subtle issue that the court has to resolve. It's like Donald Trump is committing crimes against the world by making countries pay him tariffs. Now he has to give everybody all their money back. And then he has to go to jail forever. Like, that's how they present it. It's ridiculous.
I'm trying to find the cold open here. I'll pull it up. But while I'm doing that, I got to play this clip because I absolutely love this.
But now I'm going to go in a different direction, probably the direction that I should have gone the first time, but I read the language. I'm very good at reading language, and it read our way 100%. But now I'll go the way I could have gone originally, which is even stronger than our original choice. As Justice Kavanaugh.
Oh, I thought he said more about reading language.
Dude, how about that countdown clock for the partial DHS shutdown?
Has it been that long already?
I love how they call it a partial shutdown too. They're trying to like they will they'll like kind of upgrade the drama and downgrade the drama based on the political valence. Like if they wanted to make the shutdown sound terrible, they would say like day 7 of the government shutdown. Now they're like, it's just a partial DHS shutdown.
Stupid. I did hear that they might be shutting down TSA pre-check because the TSA is not getting paid right now during this specific partial shutdown.
You gotta make the pre-check class angry.
Yeah, gotta make them all angry. But let's how much of this do you want to listen to?
Twitter icon.
I don't know.
How about that
tonight?
But we can listen. I mean, there is a lot of
2 minutes. Yeah.
The Korea stuff is fascinating.
Yes, let's get there later. But like, just go through this chick at like 1.5, and we'll just fly, or 1.25, and we'll fly through it.
Okay. Chris wants me to go through this chick at 1.5.
Trump's signature economic policy, it is in shambles. The sweeping tariffs he falsely promised would liberate hardworking Americans have been illegal all along. Today, the Supreme Court struck down a huge chunk of the president's trade agenda. The court ruled he illegally deployed emergency powers, authority that he does not have to slap crushing tariffs on nearly every country. The historic decision on presidential power was handed down 6-3. Even 2 of Trump's appointees, Justice Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, ruled against him. Trump then unleashed this unhinged tirade against the justices who dared to put him in his place.
I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. They don't want to do the right thing. They're afraid of it.
Justices Gorsuch and Barrett, are you surprised in particular by their decision today? And do you regret nominating them?
I don't want to say whether or not I regret. I think the decision was terrible. I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth, the 2 of them.
There's a reason why Trump is attacking our country's separation of powers. The New York Times writes the court's ruling, quote, amounted to a declaration of independence. But let's be real, it took more than 10 months to get here. Trump's illegal tariffs were in effect for 321 days before the court stopped the president's unlawful tax on the American people. And voters, well, they have felt the pain, with 60% of Americans disapproving of Trump's whiplash trade policy. But that is not stopping Trump. Breaking just minutes ago, Trump says he signed a new executive order imposing an additional 10% tariff on all countries, a new effort to bypass the court's ruling.
Today really strongly said President Trump's tariffs policy is unconstitutional and illegal. They said, look, if you want to get tariffs, the way to do it is to go to Congress and ask for authorization. And so, it's not a decision about any particular president. It's a decision about the presidency. And the Chief Justice, writing for 6 justices, used very strong language about the president, saying, the Constitution requires you to get this affirmative approval of the Congress, and you can't just do this on your own. In America, the stroke of the president's pen is not enough to impose taxes on the American people, and tariffs are nothing else but taxes, the Chief Justice said. And I think it's notable that this decision wasn't just written by some group of lefty justices, to the extent there even are any. It was written by and joined by 6 justices, including 2 justices appointed by Donald Trump himself, Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, both of them saying in full that these tariffs were unconstitutional. And so, when I presented the argument to the Supreme Court on November 5th, I made about 6 key points. Every single one, Nicole, of those 6 points was accepted 100% by all 6 justices today on the Supreme Court.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So he was doing something illegal. It's been illegal all along. He knew it was illegal when he did it. Like it's such dramatic bullshit.
So stupid. And he's going to get his way anyway, too, at the end of it. That's again why I think it was so funny. He's like, this is exactly what we wanted the entire time. So, joke's on you guys. Now I'm going to tariff everybody even harder. And that's what he's doing. So it's funny shit. I do really want to get to the South Korea stuff because it's so freaking funny.
Okay.
We can go more on the tariff stuff first before we get there. And I also want to get into the glyphosate thing and the food coloring thing, just because they're great examples of current psyops kind of going on anti-Trump stuff. So what else do you have on this that you wanted to get into?
You can tell me all about that because I don't know shit about the glyphosate thing. I can't. Let me see if I can find this in the Supreme Court case. So there was one really interesting. Okay, here we are. So Gorsuch, in his dissent, talks about British common law and where the major questions doctrine comes from. Let me see here. Okay, so we got that up. Perfect. So he says the major questions doctrine teaches that to sustain a claim that Congress has granted them an extraordinary power, executive officials must identify clear authority for that power. Far from a novelty, much the same principle has long applied to those who claim extraordinary delegated authority, whether in private or public law. Examples stretch across many fields. Consider the first common law of corporations. In early modern England, corporations could be formed only with an explicit ex ante and direct authorization. And so all this is coming from the sovereign. And he says some of the corporations exercise regulatory functions not unlike those performed by modern administrative agencies. Indeed, the initial settlements in Virginia and Massachusetts Bay, among others, were structured as corporations. English law treated these corporations as having authority to issue bylaws, but that authority was subject to restrictions, one of which was that corporations could not regulate on major subjects without express authorization. So if you think about this, like so he's talking about the settlements, which became colonies, which became states, essentially, and they needed to get their authority to pass so they could pass their own bylaws to govern what was covered under that municipal corporation. And our cities and our states are still municipal corporations. The country is a municipal corporation, and people are like, it's not a corporation. Yes, it is. And so they would, if there was ever anything big that they wanted to do, if they wanted to change something really important, they would have to request delegated authority to be able to do that. They couldn't just act like this on their own. And so the question is, and I don't want to take too long on this, but I thought this was really interesting in reading it. And I encourage people to read this section of the opinion. But there's a difference in who the sovereign is, or who the sovereign is supposed to be in the United States of America. The sovereign is supposed to be the people of the United States of America. And they are operating in this case. So if the president has to request this delegated authority from Congress, and Congress has control over this delegated authority and can rescind it, well, where does Congress get that authority from? And the answer is the people. And so it would follow then that if Congress wants to make major changes, they should have that authority directly from the sovereign, which is the people. And the people should delegate to Congress the authority to make those changes.
Yeah.
It turns out that hasn't really happened. And our Constitution has been completely overthrown. We've talked about that enough times through the Reconstruction and the rest of it. But one thing that never happens is that they go back and actually get delegated authority from the people. And we can't hold them accountable because we don't even have real elections.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are your thoughts then on was it this last week that Gavin Newsom was trying to set up some sort of trade deal with the European Union, and Trump got super pissed off about it? So what about him? Would he have to go get authority from Congress to do that too?
Well, I don't know the specifics of that, so I can't comment on the specifics. But in general, before we had this centralized federal government, the states were all just individual nations who made trade deals on their own, and they still do make trade deals on their own. And so I don't just on that basis alone, I don't know the specifics, but I would think that California can probably make trade deals with foreign countries so long as they're not going outside of whatever the federal government might demand or try to reinforce through the supremacy clause or whatever. But again, I don't know that. That's just me kind of guessing at it.
Yeah, that's interesting though. No, like it goes right back to what I said at the beginning where, you know, giving Congress this power back, the Supreme Court kind of redefining things and going back to the original Constitution. It's great. It's a great first step. It just sucks that we're, you know, expecting this current Congress and how they're, you know, selected as the solution here. I don't trust. I don't like it. You know, maybe we're on the heels of some sort of election fraud exposure. I don't know. It's a rug I'm on, but I don't know when they're going to pull it. If they're going to pull that rug pre-midterms or after or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, man. You're spot on. Like not being able to hold these people accountable. We're not represented. It's ridiculous. And then it comes down to the, you know, no taxation without representation thing. Yeah, here we are constantly being taxed without representation. Stupid.
And to think that that our lives are governed by corporate bylaws that need to like derive their authority from a sovereign that is not the people. That's not a happy outlook.
No, but the SAVE Act is going to save us, man.
Totally.
We'll be fine. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the delegitimization efforts from this week specifically. And I love that word. I love saying that word because it's fun to say. It rolls off the tongue, but it's also essential aspect to narrative warfare, right? The whole point of irregular warfare is to delegitimize somebody. It's a battle for the narrative, battle for legitimacy, and we constantly see that going on with Trump. And this is a good week for me with the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders loved me this week because I was like debunking some of the anti-Trump stuff, and they were like all for it. Some weeks when I'm more so debunking the cheerleaders, they don't love me as much, but the doomers, black pillars do. That's where it's the conflict between like trying to just find the truth always. You're going to get hated by somebody every time you're operating through this stuff. But good week for me with the cheerleaders because right away, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, there was this executive order that came out having to do with glyphosate. And I don't know if you're familiar with this at all. I know I shared a couple clips around, but let me pull up the actual executive order.
Hold on. Before that, you know, you were saying you were having a good thing with a good week with the cheerleaders.
Here we go.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt all week. So, oh, that's great. But this is the executive order that Trump came out with. I think he came out Wednesday because we got a question from PJ Corrigan about it. He was already like taking the clickbait on what this executive order actually meant. But so Thursday morning, I wake up and I see a whole bunch of like the shilliest accounts out there. That Health Ranger guy, Tom Renz, people of that, like they're constantly misrepresenting everything Trump does. Thomas Massey is another great example, and we'll talk about what he did. But they're misrepresenting what Trump did, giving the most like doomer take possible and straight up lying, propaganda, psyop, whatever, to make Trump look bad, to delegitimize him. And I saw this one account, Dutch Sense or something. Some guy I follow, I know it, he's a pretty big account, but he had totally black-pilled out over this. He was like, the fact that Trump did this, he's given immunity to cancer-causing companies. Like, I can't support this. Anybody who does support Trump after this is pure evil. And he'd post this like completely raged out nonsense take, and then he'd delete it. And then he'd post another one and delete it. And he's calling like anybody supporting Trump retarded and all these things. And I just kept screenshotting this stuff because I knew it was going to get deleted. So I have a whole like, 20 pictures of this guy's deleted posts. But there's a lot of that going on. And the clickbait around this is this glyphosate-based herbicides. It's like one of the most commonly used herbicides out there. And we can talk all day about whether or not this is a good thing to be putting on our crops, but that is a separate discussion from what this executive order actually does. They were spinning this as Trump giving immunity to those companies from being sued for causing cancer, okay? That's what they were spinning it as. Like Trump just sold out to big ag, big whatever, big pharma, and he's giving immunity to Roundup. And there's a whole bunch of lawsuits. Kennedy himself had won like a $223 million lawsuit against Bayer, I think it was, who's one of the makers of, I think they're the makers of Roundup. But but he won a huge class action lawsuit because of the cancer causing properties of glyphosate. And he campaigned on the, with Maha and everything of digging into this. But the reality of the situation is there's only one producer of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate based herbicides in the United States. And the majority of what we get for this, which we spray on our crops, it's herbicides, whatever, fertilizer, we get it from foreign. So just like with timber, just like with, other critical minerals and all these things, that is a national security issue to the Trump administration. So like, okay, well, we can't just be dependent on foreign countries for something that we need for our food supply and that the farmers need. So we're going to implement an executive order here, calling it a national security issue. And they go in and use the Defense Production Act, and the Secretary of Agriculture and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, Brooke Rollins and Pete Hegseth, they're going to be going to find companies and they're going to force them to help mine and produce elemental phosphorus and glyphosate. Okay. Just like they've done with other things. They did it in the past during COVID. I don't remember which manufacturer specifically they went to, but they made them do respirators. They use the DPA quite a bit. And then in this executive order, there's this one section, and this is the one everybody was misrepresenting. This order confers all immunity provided for in section 707 of the Act, 50 USC 4557. Additionally, domestic producers of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides are required to comply with this order in accordance with the provisions of 7 CFR Part 789. But so Health Ranger, Tom Renz, Thomas Massey, all these people are out there saying that Trump is giving immunity for cancer-causing effects of these chemicals. Thomas Massey went as far as doing an entire new bill that he's going to be introducing to Congress. And this is just absolutely retarded. I introduced the No Immunity for Glyphosate Act. And the whole thing is how there's no immunity for product liability for glyphosate producing companies, which isn't even they don't have immunity. This executive order did not give them immunity. And this is where the misrepresentation comes into play. The immunity that's given here is contract based. So if the Department of War comes in is you now, because of the department or the DPA, Defense Production Act, we're going to force you to help us manufacture elemental phosphorus. So you have to stop whatever contracts you're working on and do this for us now. The immunity that you have is that those companies can't sue you for doing that. That's it. That's the immunity that's provided here. Section 4557 has never been used successfully as a defense for product liability immunity. They tried it with Agent Orange, when the Vietnamese came and tried to, get a whole bunch of money. They tried using it, the producers of Agent Orange, and they shot it down. It was not successful for product liability. Any product liability is still there. The lawsuits against Bayer are still there. I think they actually just did a huge settlement, $10 billion settlement a couple days before this executive order came out. So this doesn't change any of that. Yet this is how they're misrepresenting it and misrepresenting Trump. It's a very easy and obvious psyop that they're using against him. And we're starting to, these things are starting to get hot and heavy with the midterms coming up. And you're seeing it from a lot of these doomer black pill accounts. And I think it's very important not to emotionally react to the clickbait you see on Twitter, because this is exactly what it is. It's a great example of clickbait and bullshit. It's not what Trump is doing with this executive order. Those people are liars. I have another example after that. But
it's amazing how those accounts came to such prominence, being super based and red pilled about COVID. And now there's just this whole world of accounts that people see as being authoritative in kind of a health and medical sense. And a lot of that was, and I'm not trying to slight the entire Maha thing. And certainly I agree with most of the priorities of that movement, though not the people who were involved in kind of the central popularization of that movement. All those social media accounts, they kind of swept a bunch of people under the Maha umbrella in 2023 and 2024, leading up to that election. They were people who were willing to go online and say, we don't like Joe Biden. We don't like Kamala Harris. We're going to hold our noses and vote for Trump because RFK Jr. is working with him. And we know that we need something different. All those people kind of were free riders on the Trump train for that year and a half or 2 years, where they got to declare that they were totally anti-woke and they're totally pro-health and the rest of it, but they never actually committed to anything except for this stuff. And you can see as soon as Trump was announced the winner, they went right back to the stance that they held before, which was total Trump derangement. So, you know, and again, not disagreeing with a bunch of their priorities. I'm totally, I'm not a fan of pharma, not a fan of vaccines. I don't think they've cured diseases. I don't think they understand diseases in the first place. I'm like an extremist on all that stuff, except I'm not on board at all with the actual movement of it online, which I think is totally manufactured and completely fake and meant to take people who like have those sentiments and redirect them back into the system. So I'm not a fan of any of that stuff. So it's no surprise to me to see these people like trying to go against Trump whenever they have the opportunity. And then you just have to wonder, are they coordinated in their effort to go after these things in an anti-Trump move, or are they just so rabidly anti-Trump that they see a couple headlines in the morning about how Trump gave the glyphosate people like this big this get out of jail free card, and then they don't want to even read the executive order or try to figure out what it means. They just want to go all out anti-Trump for clicks. I'm open to either interpretation.
Yeah, well, speaking of Maha, another thing that came out today was this one. This Dominic Tripoli and a bunch of big accounts, even Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think Thomas Massey did it again too. Another big headline, new. In major reversal, Trump administration retreats on plan to ban artificial colors in food and significantly loosens FDA labeling requirements. And people were freaking out. Look, I mean, 1.4 million views on this post alone, saying how Trump is reversing on the whole artificial color things on the heels of the whole glyphosate cancer immunity thing. And so people, again, up in arms over the whole Maha thing. And it seems like they're the target audience as of late. But when you actually look at what they did is the complete opposite of that. They're still pursuing the no artificial colors. They changed a definition. That's it. Because there was no, the current definition here, I'll read the thing. FDA recognizes that the current definition of artificial color, which does not distinguish between colors that are derived from natural color sources and other color, may create challenges to transitioning away from FD&C Act certified colors. It's a definitional change because if people still wanted to add colors to things and they could come up with it from natural sources, so there was no, petroleum based or whatever in there, they couldn't fit within the definition. And so this is that change. It's still all natural. They're still going away from the petroleum based stuff, and everything still would have to get approved, which it says down here. Any colors derived from even natural sources must still be pre-approved by the FDA under the FDA's color additive petition process. But they're totally misrepresenting what's actually happening here. And they're using The Guardian as their source of this headline too. But it's ridiculous. But people are up in arms over it. And none of these people actually dig into what is actually happening here. And people are emotionally reacting to the news. And that's why it's so important to understand what's going on, these attempts to delegitimize Trump and target, especially the health stuff. People get so upset about it. Nobody digs into it. And they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm never voting for Trump again. And maybe those aren't even real people saying that stuff, but there are a lot of people participating in the PSYOP, big accounts. And so when you see that pattern happening multiple times over the course of, a week or two to a targeted audience, and then you go back and look at some of these accounts and it's a much broader pattern than you realize, you can't trust any of the shit they put out there because they clearly have an agenda. Like once is a mistake. Okay. I can forgive a mistake. I've made one of those once. And it happens. But more than that, especially this close in time, you are a clickbait shill, retarded, or you have an agenda. And that's unforgivable, in my opinion.
I'm 100% with you on that. The social incentives are aligned to give people credit for going against Trump. If you are in any kind of mainstream audience, and this is the thing about the Maha thing, this is the same thing about the JD thing, same thing about the Silicon Valley thing, and the tech bros and the rest of it. There's these kind of factions within what the mainstream media would call the Trump coalition of 2024. And it's important, again, to remember that that's a fake election and that coalition was largely irrelevant, except in a narrative sense, in getting people to understand that there was no way Trump was going to lose, to Joe Biden, who was totally illegitimately replaced with Kamala Harris, who did not even make her way through a primary process or anything else. It was a fake campaign and a fake election, and the coalition is just as fake as the rest of it. But those people are able to identify themselves as not the bad ones. We're the smart ones. We're the informed ones. We are going to vote for Trump this time around in the fake election. We're going to take all the social credit for that. But then when Trump does bad things, we're going to say Trump was bad so that all the people who were mad at us for voting for Trump are still going to take us seriously. And that's how the controlled opposition just works back and forth forever. And that's what we've always dealt with before. And those people are still very much tracking the mainstream stories on all of this shit. And that stance relative to Trump just continues to play the way it used to. And it comes under a different identity now. It comes under JD, or it comes under the Maha thing, or whatever it is. And so they think, they're portrayed as being Trump aligned in a rational way, but now they just can't do it anymore. And it's like, no, they're just playing into the same social incentive game that they were playing into before.
Another pattern I recognize with this too is the last couple of weeks, there's been a very heavy anti-Bannon op, which I have not gotten on the rug with that either. Like waiting to see how this whole thing plays out. It's clearly an op, whether it's deserved or legitimate, yet to be determined. I've read some of the emails. Yes, they don't look great. We don't know what was really going on behind the scenes. This is how we approach everything, guys. Yeah. But a lot of the people pushing the anti-Bannon op are the same people pushing this anti-Trump bullshit misinformation campaign. Like Alex Jones was one of the big pushers of the whole Trump, some guy's got in his ear and he's protecting Big Ag and he's giving immunity to cancer people, like totally misrepresenting it. And he's also on the Bannon thing. Like it's a pattern you can't get away from. Why are the same people trying to delegitimize Trump while trying to delegitimize Bannon? It's like a negative indicator almost, so those are patterns you got to recognize. And when these people put anything out, any piece of information, at least give it a second look or give it some time, and don't emotionally respond to what these people are saying, because 9 times out of 10, they are doing so with an agenda to get you to emotionally respond and get you upset. And it's only a matter of time before you yourself end up like turning against Trump, or maybe become apathetic to Trump. And maybe that's all they need is apathy against Trump, so they can do whatever bullshit at the midterms or afterwards. Who knows?
The Bannon thing, I was thinking about this today. What do you think? So Bannon has recorded this series of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein that, are rumored to be somewhere between 15 hours of interviews and 50 hours of interviews that are going to be cut down for some documentary that's going to be like 5 hours long or something. All right. I don't know what the details are on the hours. Yeah. I don't know if anyone's actually resolved what all that is. Are we going to know more about what Jeffrey Epstein really is and really represents from that Bannon interview in its entirety, or from every bit of research and discussion that has ever been done on the internet and in the lawsuits and the rest of it prior to that interview? And I would suggest that there is a better than 50-50 chance that we're going to know more about what Jeffrey Epstein really was from those Bannon interviews than we know from all of the research prior to now. And that should not be possible.
You're right. And also, is that interview going to work against the narrative of all that research prior? Which,
yes. Yeah. And that's why they're going after him. And it's not only that, Bannon's the one who's out there right now talking, speaking out against the Iran war, which means all of the neocons and all of like the warmongering globalists, who most people believe are the people behind the Epstein thing in the worst version of it in the first place, they're all going after Bannon this week.
Yeah. And this is, again, comes back to what we were saying the last couple of weeks, and actually the last like 9-10 months since the whole Epstein thing first started. Yeah. It's been a year. It's probably not what we thought it was. There is still yet to be proof of any of the major claims. And we won't spend a lot of time on this, but the fact that there's been no proof of all the major claims, yet people are using the story of that to try to take down Bannon, it's just all too interesting, guys. we should transition the 72-hour rule into like you guys. We need 72 weeks, maybe years at this point, for people to just like, let's see how things play out before we jump to conclusions on any of this stuff. Everybody's trying to get you to emotionally respond to something. Don't do it. Don't give them that weapon. Let's
Steve Bannon doesn't seem worried about any of it whatsoever.
Oh, of course not.
But you know what's funny, man? A bunch of the influencers in the TPUSA downstream kind of paid coordinated messaging ops have just gone like dark on Bannon. People who used to post Bannon clips every single day for 5 years have not posted Steve Bannon clips in a week.
Like Carly Bone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
And that's what I'm talking about. Yes. It's absolutely crazy that like people who were 100% pro Bannon, who he's been like thankful to and said, hey, thanks for posting these clips that I'm using in the cold open and whatever. Just like immediately dark on Bannon, still totally posting everything that Fox News puts up, posting everything that Turning Point USA puts up. Just no Steve Bannon now. Kind of weird.
That is weird. I mean, the social incentives. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah.
The social media has made it so that if you aren't on the anti-Bannon train, which, and by the way, I'm not even necessarily on the pro-Bannon. Like, I'm on the neutral ground with everything train. Like, let's just figure out what the truth is train. But if you are not on that whole anti-Bannon thing, they'll demonize you. And people don't want to get demonized, and they don't want to lose the social media money and the clicks and the shares. So they'll stop sharing Bannon to keep that money rolling in.
Yes. And I want everybody to think about what the impact of that is when it's applied at scale. Okay. If everybody understands that the social incentives indicate if you support Steve Bannon while he's like while this Epstein thing is being targeted at him, and maybe justifiable, that's fine. He obviously spent time with the man and communicating with the man and the rest of it. So have whatever opinion you want about that. But if you go the wrong direction on those things, all of the social incentives will go against you. En masse online, you will be hit with a struggle session where everyone will just call you a pedophile until you stop talking about the subject. Yeah. Well, if everybody knows that that's the incentive structure that we are playing under for a week, and everybody stops talking about that thing, well, all of a sudden, then you have real proof as someone who is observing the public conversation that nobody wants to get on board with that. So you're actually, through the illusion of consensus, you are creating a real consensus of people who agree that it's important to support the illusion.
That was brilliant. Can you say that again? Through the illusion of consensus.
Yes.
You're creating a consensus.
Yes. So there becomes a consensus of people who don't want to talk in support of Steve Bannon because they've been shown in their social networks that all the stuff delivered to them through the algorithm, through the screen, that it is that the majority agrees you should not support Steve Bannon. Otherwise, you are going to be punished with online social credit incentives and punishments throughout the week. And so then people actually duck out from that, which creates a real consensus agreeing to this kind of fake construct.
Yeah, this is it's exactly what was tried to be pulled against us at Badlands through all those ops. Anybody who would talk positive things about Badlands, they would get DMs, they would get text messages, they would get replies on social media calling us all these things so that people would stop talking about it. There's a guy writing articles calling people who are like saying nice things about Badlands, calling them pedophiles and Satanists. Like people writing articles about people online who like our content, pedophiles. Like imagine that. Imagine you're a guy, like one of the guys I know, he's like I don't know if he's a pastor, but I know he like sings at a church. Like he's just a solid, good family man, supporter, likes what we do. And all of a sudden he's featured in one of these articles called a pedophile. I was like, dude, what is this? Like this guy doesn't even know who I am, but that's what they're trying to do. And it's the same thing with the Bannon thing. It's those ops work, and it's unfortunate that they do.
Well, they work dependent on how much the audience is in the frame of mind where that's how they form beliefs. And I gotta say, that shit is retarded. If you're still forming beliefs that way, it is 100% your fault, and it's gonna happen. Like bad things are gonna come from that.
Yeah.
People are getting so hoodwinked on these things so easily because they are, and part of this I totally understand, because people don't have the time that we take on a daily basis to track these things and really like think about them. Most people are going about their lives. They're working full time. They have families to take care of. They have real issues in their lives that they have to deal with. And so they read some headlines. They find some people online that they trust. They see how those people are weighing in on a day-to-day basis. And they don't know anyone from Adam. And so they're just like, okay, well, all these people who I've come to like trust online, they're all saying this one thing about this guy. What am I going to do? Believe all these people are just lying about this person? And they don't have a means of adjudicating that. And so they're just like, okay, well, everybody agrees that like this thing is wrong. I don't have the time to figure this out. So I got to think that where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. And it just goes like that. It's like, we don't even have strong beliefs about any of this shit, but then we push all our chips behind these very like passive beliefs, and our entire reality is being constructed that way.
Hey, B Jolly has a comment here. It says, in my opinion, Bannon needs to address the elephant in the room if he's not guilty. That's the opposite of the truth.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
That's the absolute opposite of the truth. The people, like, if he's actually guilty of something, you'd think they'd show evidence of it. No, they're trying to demonize him and give the guilt by association thing with the consensus that you're talking about. That's exactly what they tried to do against us, and why we kept quiet about it, and we're mostly quiet about it. Yeah. And only vaguely respond to bullshit now, minus the one Moab video I did a while back. But other than that, like, we have nothing we need to prove. We have the truth on our side. What if Bannon does too? And you guys are like, you want him to respond? What is he going to say? What do you need a response from him from?
And the other thing is that they are attacking Bannon using Trump as a proxy, that Bannon was like going against Trump and like he wanted to get rid of Trump with the 25th Amendment. Well, if that's the case, then Steve Bannon is the greatest bullshit artist of all time. And by the way, maybe he is. He's like, that guy's a certifiable genius, and anybody who doesn't think that is probably brain dead. Yeah. But like, he has been unbelievably pro-Trump for the entire time. He is the only person in the mainstream who consistently said that Joe Biden was an illegitimate president and that Donald Trump won that election. And all of the people who are going after Bannon right now just cucked to that whole thing and bent the knee because they're statists and declared that Joe Biden was the president. And so we're supposed to listen to those people as they go after Steve Bannon? Give me a fucking break.
None of those people went and got a tan in prison for Trump like Bannon did.
Yeah. One day I hope that I can interview him and ask him how he got that prison tan.
Yeah. Maybe just the prison uses all like sun tan lights.
Yeah. Or maybe that whole thing about being convicted for failing to respond to a subpoena from an illegitimate and improperly formed congressional committee over a fake insurrection was not what it was made out to be.
Yeah, could be that. But I mean, I don't know, man. That seems seems like a bridge too far.
Yeah.
What else were we going to talk about? We got to play the. Should we go back to the Smithsonian thing quick? Or are we too?
Yes. Yeah. So yes, we forgot to talk about this while we were discussing the tariffs. So the 1971 thing. Now I have to pull this back up and remember where I said this to you in our conversation. But the Smithsonian agreement it happened 2 months after Nixon, after the gold convertibility thing and the Trading with the Enemies Act, the tariff thing happened. Then they did the Smithsonian agreement, and that was basically the dollar essentially being converted to fiat forever. And yesterday, when this comes up, and it's mentioned multiple times in the Supreme Court filing, but also yesterday, the very same day, Melania Trump was at the Smithsonian as they did this. I think this is it. They just posed with the dress. So they're like inducting her inauguration dress into the Hall of Fame. And it just happens to be the Smithsonian on the same day with all the banking stuff that's in that case. I just thought this was the best chance I would ever have to scream coincidence with a question mark, or to like in a cocky but not quite certain way say, you can't tell me that's a coincidence.
No, you're supposed to say probably just a coincidence.
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably is
and
the
not
word.
spell probably all the way. You just say probably.
Yeah, just probably just a coincidence.
Yeah. Is that a normal thing though for like dresses to be put into the Smithsonian or outfits generally?
I think that there was, I actually read something about this today too. I think that there's like, what was, I can never remember Abraham Lincoln's Mary. I think
Mary Contrary, Abraham's wife.
Yes. I think there's another name there that I'm forgetting, but she had a dress in there. And I think that
Mary Todd Lincoln.
There you go. Mary Todd. That's what I was forgetting. And then I think Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy maybe had one.
By the way, I just got the book in, Our Secret Constitution.
Nice.
Finally
Dude,
going to read it.
That book is mind blowing.
Yeah, finally going to read it. I just came in today while I was getting back to town. But I was thinking, we got to figure out a way. How do we get our co-founder shirts into the Smithsonian?
Well, who knows? We're just gonna have to win the information war, and then people will somehow have to realize en masse that our tiny channel on Rumble was the little engine that could.
That does what it feels like, Thomas the Tank, a little bit. Or we could do it. Probably the easier way is steal a presidential election for one of us, and then wear the co-founder shirt. Have the first lady, whoever from our group wins the fake election, and their significant other or spouse or whatever wears the co-founder shirt, and then it gets in. That might be the easier path.
Yeah. Wear the co-founder shirt to an inauguration.
Yes.
It sounds complicated, but I'm sure we can get there.
Oh, we just need a couple hackers from Venezuela and $15 in Bitcoin, and we can dictate the winner of every election.
Yeah, that's what they're apparently selling us now.
Okay, let's watch this clip because we're going to go to war with Iran, and we all need to be prepared. So this is John Kiriakou.
Kiriakou, I think is how you say it.
Okay, and he is former CIA. I think somebody said he was like a paper pusher at the CIA. I didn't actually look him up. Kiriakou.
Well, the thing that you have to say when anyone says former CIA is that there's no such thing as former CIA.
Yes, that's correct. There's no such thing as former CIA. I'm trying to see if there's any background into like who this guy actually is. But either way, former CIA guy, aka current CIA guy, probably potentially, says this.
I have a friend, former CIA officer, who was at the White House this morning talking to his friends. And he says that a decision has been made to attack Iran on Monday or Tuesday. The president yesterday gave the Iranians 10 days to accept our proposals for an end to their ballistic missile program, an end to their uranium enrichment program, an end to supporting groups in the Middle East like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. But he's done this before. Well, he'll give you 10 days, he'll give you 2 weeks, and then he'll just attack 2 days into it. He thinks that keeps people off balance. And so he said that there are battle lines, that the anti-war forces are J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard. He said that that's it. He said the pro-war people are led by Marco Rubio and include Pete Hegseth, and now the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I stopped him on that point this morning. And I said, wait a minute. I said, during the Iraq War, at the start of the Iraq War, the most stridently anti-war component was the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They were always the last ones that wanted to attack because they know what war is. And he said, but you forget, Trump has replaced all of the Joint Chiefs this year, in the past 12 months. Which I had forgotten. Any of these four-star generals who, had worked their way up through the ranks, but had served under Biden, he fired all of them. All of them. And he promoted people that he knew would be politically loyal.
Do you think this is to distract from the current scandal?
Probably in part, yeah.
How about them saying they're going to release the UFO files last night, which I've wanted released forever. But
I know, right? I mean, we've been talking about this for years.
The timing.
Yeah.
It's not even true about the Joint Chiefs of Staff thing. Let me show you.
Those two people are retarded.
Yes, 100% retarded. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Half, 50%. It's 50-50, 50 Biden, 50 Trump in terms of the makeup of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So wrong there, number one. But number two, like, I also have a friend, a former friend, CIA agent, who was at the White House yesterday. And he told me that if you hear a story from other former CIA agents saying that Trump wants to go to war, that's not true, that we're not going to bomb Iran. So I don't know which former CIA agent is right. Could be any of them. It's a crapshoot. But yeah, I think it's bogus. It's the weird thing, though. The weirdest part about this is the whole, it's just Tulsi and Vance that are the voice of reason. They're the real anti-war people. It's not Trump who's, ended 8 wars and been negotiating peace all over the place and all these things. Like, it's not him. It's JD Vance. He's the savior.
If you think about the affiliations, he's the way Kiriakou is affiliating himself. He's saying the Joint Chiefs of Staff prior to Trump were anti-war, and he's saying that JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard in this case are anti-war, and he's very anti-Trump. And Trump is probably using a war with Iran to distract from the Epstein files scandal. And that's why he's releasing the alien thing too. So this is just anti-Trump, pro-military industrial complex, pro-JD, pro-Tulsi. What a strange position to take, except that the whole TV character fantasy team, pro-JD, the people who call him 48 already, one of which is Carly Bonet, the chick that doesn't post Bannon anymore. All of the pro-JD thing is lined up behind this Kiriakou position. So it's just funny to watch people pretend to just be these objective observers and still be pushing certain elements and certain factions forward.
Yeah, the whole thing's so stupid too. Like the Iran situation, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on Middle East stuff or the Jews. We have Ghost. We have our token Jew guy in Ghost. But
Jew guy.
When it comes to the story of the conflict with Iran, I was under the impression that when we fake bombed them or really bombed them just in a manner that didn't kill anybody whatsoever because we gave them advance notice, and then when they responded to our bombing, they gave us advance notice. I was told that was going to eliminate their ability to pursue nuclear weapons. That's what we were told. Iran, who had been working on their nuclear capabilities for 30 years, like the threat was so severe for 30 years, we finally had to take out the facilities altogether, that they are now again on the cusp of that somehow, to the degree where we have to go to war with them. There's something weird about it. It just doesn't add up. So I'm probably not going to take what any CIA agent, whether it's former or current, says at face value, whether that's about Iran or Venezuela. Not doing it. Don't know if we're going to go to war. And if we do go to war, I anticipate this is what it's going to look like. We are going to give them advance notice and bomb something. There will probably be very few casualties, or maybe we take out a leader, a terrorist leader or something. And then they're going to respond and give us advance notice. And then we're not going to have any way of actually proving any of it happened. No. But that's probably what the war is going to look like if we have one. And they're going to give it a name like the 12-hour war or whatever they do over there with those Middle East conflicts. That's going to be done. Maybe we'll get a story of like flying go-karts too. That'd be really cool. Bring it all together. But yeah, I don't anticipate an actual severe conflict in the Middle East.
No. And China and Russia are down there as well. China and Russia are both allies of Iran. Donald Trump is going to China. That meeting is supposed to start on April 2nd, which is the 1-year anniversary of Liberation Day. Nice. And and the chart that saved Trump's life. We get to see all of that.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the big moments that we're leading up to. the situation with Iran is going to resolve itself in one way or another. And then Trump is going to meet Xi in China. There's going to be a massive welcome for Trump. He hinted at it the other day. It's on April 2nd. That's where we're going to go. He's not in the middle of negotiations with Iran and also starting a major war with Iran that could just last indefinitely with China and Russia in the same region. That's just not going to happen. And if we get the announcement on television that it is happening, the proper way to respond to it is just to say, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
That's
what
all
if-
you have to do. Just be like, no, that's actually not happening. And you just wait for a couple days to hear all the dumb stories about how it is happening and just keep watching them and being like, I don't think that's right. And you just do that for a few days. And then you will realize when the stories keep coming out and none of them actually have any proof behind them, and you don't actually have to believe any of it. You're just like, wait a second. Are these people faking a war and just telling me about a war without any proof whatsoever so that I'm going to go and support a bunch of things that I would never actually support? Then the light turns on and you're like, oh, wait, this is what they do all the time? It's like, oh, yeah, that is what they do all the time.
You know, we haven't seen, I think Ghost kind of made a good point in the chat about this. We haven't seen the discombobulator used against Iran yet.
Well, I
And
think
so-
we did actually last year, but that's just me.
I don't know, man. I heard that was, what just happened?
Yeah, I know you heard it was a fleet of B-2 bombers
Yes.
executing the Top Gun Maverick story in perfect precision. He dropped a bomb down the air hatch and down it went, and they just wanted to get some air from underground, and it turns out that was what allowed them to get bombed. I think we went through that last week.
We did, yeah. And Trump said, like, it's a bad idea. If you want to get vents, you can't do a vertical. You have to do it out the side of the mountain. It's much harder to bomb those things. The Top Gun maneuver.
Discombobulator is going to get you no matter how secure you have your nuclear facility under a mountain. The discombobulator is still going to fuck you up.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, guys. Just stay tuned. No matter what Tom Wren says, no matter what the CIA says, let's give it the 72-hour rule before we jump to conclusions about whatever war we're going to get into. Okay, another story. Speaking of CIA and how good they are at their intelligence and stuff, we had a story this week, or this was just yesterday too, wasn't it? They came out and revised a whole bunch of intelligence reports and deleted a bunch of them too. The bias spy, CIA rescinds or revises 19 intelligence reports over political bias and bad tradecraft. They straight up deleted 17 of them permanently. Decoders, there's your cue.
There you go.
No pun intended. And then they just revised and re-released 2 of the intelligence reports. They gave 3 examples of them, and those 3 were all DEI related. So that's notable. They didn't give any insight onto what the rest of them were. The other 16, my main question, actually, there's a couple main takeaways we'll get into. Number 1 being is how many of these have to do with election? You know, like how many of these intelligence reports are election related that we had permanently deleted? That'd be nice to know.
Or Russiagate related, or, you know, any of the things that the intelligence community has lined up behind, or parts of the intelligence community. Hashtag not all intelligence agents. Yeah, the idea that this is mostly about DEI and wokeness. Give me a break.
Yeah, and then there's this too. You sent the actual CIA link last night, and this is what I found even more interesting after like the story itself is interesting, but then you dig into it and you see it's let me read this. Today, CIA Director John Ratcliffe ordered the official retraction or substantive revision of 19 CIA intelligence products that did not meet CIA and IC analytic tradecraft standards and failed to be independent of political consideration. These products were identified by the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, which conducted an independent review of hundreds of finished CIA analytic reports produced over the past decade. An internal review led by Deputy Director Michael Ellis agreed that they did not meet the high standards of the American people expect from the CIA's elite analytic workforce. So, number 1, if you go to my Devolution Part 23, devolution.us, go down to Part 23, do a quick word search for Ellis, you will see he's in here multiple times. It was Ezra Cohen-Watnick and Michael Ellis, they were the ones who reported to Devin Nunes about the unmasking request from the Obama White House. Michael Ellis also went on to work at Rumble. He was also the attorney they tried to put in at the last minute at the NSA that everybody freaked out about. Nancy Pelosi freaked out about. It ended up getting to the point where Christopher Miller ordered General Nakasone from the NSA to put him in there the very last day. And then by the time Biden was inaugurated, he was out of there. And then he, like I said, he went on to be the attorney for Rumble, which is fascinating. Now he's in there as deputy director of the CIA. So his name being mentioned is notable. And then if you also look up the Presidential Intelligence Advisory Board and get that list here. 1 second. Let me pull up the actual Wikipedia. Membership. Here. Trump's second. Yeah, here we go. So Devin Nunes is the chair of the board. Notable. And then Robert O'Brien. Those are the two big names that stuck out to me because Robert O'Brien, if you guys have read my series, is heavily featured in there as well. Two big Devo names. And then you pointed out when you were talking about this, Amaryllis Fox Kennedy. She's former CIA. Is this RFK Jr.'s daughter?
I don't remember I think it's niece, but I don't remember the relationship exactly. But definitely there's one there. And then I thought it was just interesting that Reince Priebus was in there too.
Yeah, she is married to. Wait, later after leaving the agency, Kennedy was introduced at Burning Man to RFK III, who is RFK Jr.'s eldest son. Yeah, so it's daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law. Okay.
Yeah, and then Reince Priebus too. Yeah, interesting stuff. So the Ellis convergence with the PIAB and it having to do with the CIA, where Ratcliffe is obviously. I mean, just a weird story all the way around, and I think there's more to it. We may get more on it later on, especially as they're going through these reports. And I think in the background of all this, it's just the news that comes out. You know, they're the first people I saw reporting about, or you shared. John Solomon being at the leading edge of like the D-class kind of in the narrative aspect of the underlying Rico Grande case. I wonder if this is connected to that, like going through all the former CIA intelligence reports.
Certainly possible.
Yeah. And then the last thing.
I realized that we forgot to play this clip earlier when we were going through Trump's.
I want to be a good boy.
Oh, yeah. Shit. I forgot to put that in the soundboard.
There's still time.
Yeah. The other
I
thing
want to be a good boy.
the other thing we got to do is what you sent me in the chat about the, speaking of immunity, guys.
Oh, yeah.
So earlier today or yesterday when I was looking up the immunity thing having to do with the glyphosate and everybody freaking out about it, I just did a search on the Federal Register for other times the DPA immunity was used, and it's actually not used very often. But what I did find is there was an executive order that kind of got slipped through the cracks a little bit. And if anything, this is the immunity we should be up in arms about. This is not on Trump's presidential website, by the way. I looked, but it's out there on the Federal Register. And know what? I'll double check and confirm that it's not on the White House website. But what executive order is this? 14375.
So
yeah, look at this. It's not out here.
That's so crazy.
But it's on the Federal Register. So it's kind of sneaking one by us a little bit. But it's designating the Board of Peace as a public international organization entitled to enjoy certain privileges, exemptions, and immunities. When you go and look at those immunities, I got a little salty over this, not going to lie, because these fuckers don't have to pay property taxes.
Well, did you see the, I think I sent you so if you click that link.
Yeah, takes you here.
Yep, there it is. Section A, 288A. So those are the immunities for the international organizations. And if you think about that, this was written after they created the United Nations. And so all of these international governing bodies, they're basically immune from all sorts of civil actions. They kind of just exist as their own. They're treated as though they are foreign governments. And it says literally shall enjoy the same immunity from suit and every form of judicial process as is enjoyed by foreign governments.
Yeah, they say that multiple times throughout
Yeah.
this. At the bottom, they insofar as concerns customs duties and internal revenue taxes imposed upon or by reason of importation and the procedures in connection therewith, the registration of foreign agents and the treatment of official communications, the privileges, exemptions, and immunities to which international organizations shall be entitled shall be those accorded under similar circumstances to foreign governments. And then, yeah, the big one over here, exemption from property taxes. So if the Board of Peace wants to get a big old property in Washington, D.C. or somewhere, like a big old building, they don't have to pay property taxes on it, but you guys do. You have to pay property taxes on your house, but the Board of Peace does not have to pay it on their house.
We should not be part of any international organizations, and we should take all of their stuff.
Yes, and make them pay taxes.
Yeah.
If we have to do it. Nobody should be paying taxes. But if we have to, they should too.
By the way, that's another big part of the tariff discussion, because that's the way that the government was initially supposed to be funded, is through tariffs. And so the tariff and tax thing, we were talking about sanctions and tariffs being on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Tariffs and taxes are opposite ends of the spectrum on how to fund the government and how to fund the functions of the country. So
it's bullshit, man. It's all bullshit.
we're on the path to dismantling all of this bullshit. And I mean, I hope that's where Trump's going with this stuff. I think it is. I think we've had plenty of indications in that direction.
I would agree. I would agree. All right. Anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise,
I don't know, man. We made it through so many things.
We did. It was a fun show. Good show. We'll go through rants and stuff here real quick. I just want to point out we do have our conference coming up soon, April 9th through the 12th. We're going to be starting to do our exclusive live streams for this conference in the near future for ticket holders. So if you are a ticket holder, you'll have access to join those. We talk about any range of subjects. A lot of it has to do with the conference and things we're going to do there and talk about panels. But also, we just put our virtual tickets on sale. So you can get the early bird pricing right now, which is a little bit cheaper. I think we're doing $35 for early birds and $40 regularly. So it's cheaper than we normally do it, a little more than we did for the last conference. Trying to find the sweet spot on the price for everything so that we break even and whatnot and can pay to get everybody there. But yeah, hopefully you guys get your tickets. If you can't make it, we'd love to see you there. Single day tickets will probably be going on sale a little closer to the event yet, but we'll get there. And let's see, boosts. We got a few of these out here. Liberty 2112 or 2112 says, song of the day, Tom Sawyer by Rush from the album Moving Pictures. His mind is not for rent to any god or government. Always hopeful yet discontent. He knows changes aren't permanent, but change is.
There you go. Yeah, he's a big Rush fan.
That's awesome. 1027JS for $20 says, see you later. Good to see you, Joe, my fellow North Dakotan. And it was so nice. Like, I left Bismarck to go down to Florida, and it was like 50-degree weather. And then I go down to Florida, and it was like 70s. It was beautiful. And then I come back, and it was negative, pretty much. We had snow and just shitty.
50 in Bismarck when you left?
Yeah, we had like 2 weeks of 50-degree weather.
Oh, well, I was told by CNN today that the Northeast is going to be under a bomb cyclone this weekend.
What is a bomb cyclone? Is that a new kind of cyclone?
Yes, one of those new weather things they made up a few years ago to scare the shit out of everybody. And now they make the map dark pink, which is like the dark red of winter.
Jeez. I don't know. BB's up there, and I know people of his ilk love getting pounded, so it kind of is what it is. No Proverbier for $5 says the goal-defining process is where the standard mega normie truther often comes up short, as their want for a feeling of uncertainty reduction is a bit of a low pitch. I like that. Real quick, let's see if we got any Rumble Studio ads we can do. And then we'll get to the rants that you guys love to see. Let's do a little Rumble Wallet. Yeah, we'll do a Rumble Wallet. If you guys don't have the Rumble Wallet yet. Oh, what? Let me do that one. Hold on, let me try a different one. There we go. If you guys don't have Rumble Wallet yet, you should get it. It's another great way and tool you can use to support Badlands, but it's also a great tool for you guys. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold, and that's real power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. Check it out, guys. Click the QR code or button on the screen in the chat. Thank you, Rumble Wallet and Rumble Studio. Now we'll get into the rants here. Let's get this up. Oh, Chris, you should pull up that AI video for the outro.
Okay.
You want to send that over? Because I forgot to pull it in.
I got
Such
you.
a good video. All right, Miller Biz. Let me find my glasses. Says, hi, everyone. I know it's going to be a terrific show. That was a great pun. Love it. Thank you for that. Aussie Mix says, hey, guys, for $20. I don't get involved a lot in the chat. And after seeing some of the BS about your legal situation, it pissed me off, and I wanted to throw you some money and let you know I'm Badlands for life. Middle finger to the haters. I appreciate you and appreciate that. Thank you very much, Aussie. Ash 1776 for $5 says, if that power is in the Congress because taxation must have representation, then elections are the most important part of the conversation. Forcing function? Question mark. It's a great point. It's a great point. By the way, guys, get yourself some beard oil or some tallow. I was hoping we have you seen the new commercial from Jay Tritt's mom yet?
No.
Oh, it's so good. I should almost pull that up. I don't know where I have it. Let me see if I can figure this out. Do you want to read the next couple here on the screen?
Sure. Wait, where are we?
Aussie
we
Mix.
did Aussie Mix. Okay, so
No,
total.
you got to do Aussie Mix. This is the second one.
Aussie Mix 73, $10. Got to crash, y'all. Working man, gotta sleep. Catch up tomorrow. Loved chicken egg chicken, Chris. Thank you very much. All y'all at Badlands rock, man. Thank you for treading on and staying true to the truth. Love and respect. I'll put the chicken egg chicken link up in the chat, and I would encourage everybody to go check that out.
I would too,
because it is. I feel like it's good, and I think it's explaining an interesting part of what we are actually dealing with. Total Gilded, $10 watching from the UK at 4 a.m. Hope the states can find a good solution to the current political problems. We need to get our countries in order, or we're all in a pickle. And yes, that's true. By the way, John, are you getting up in the early morning tomorrow to watch the United States of America take on Canada in the Olympic hockey gold medal game?
I probably will watch that. What time is that game?
It is at 8:10 Eastern time in the morning.
Yeah, that is really early.
Yeah. But the kids might wake you up by then, right?
I don't have the kids until Monday.
Well,
this is my off week.
Sleep in, yeah.
And I tell you, I was up so early this morning. We had to get to the airport in Florida our flight was at 8. And so, gosh, we were up at like 5:30 in the morning or something Eastern time, and I didn't really do a good job of napping today. So I'm a little tired, but I do want to watch that game because I bet it'll be a good one. I'm going to try my darndest. Okay,
Should we keep going here?
Yeah, do
Jen
it.
Hutt, $5. Did you hear what Bassett said after rulings? I think it's probably Besant they're talking about there. There's a good clip out there. Also, what are your thoughts on Besant once working with Soros? I feel like we've talked about that before.
Many times.
Obviously, the association is not a great one, but if you're going to learn the system and then turn around and use it against the people who created it, you got to be in there, I suppose. So we can hope that's what he's doing. I don't know what the answer is beyond that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to save this.
Like he's great.
I like Best. I mean, for a gay guy, especially, he's doing a great job.
Can we scroll on that a little bit, and I'll keep going while you're looking?
Yes. Let me get over it. God dang it. There we go.
It's all
almost there. What was that?
So it's all falling apart.
It is. It's my fault, but it'll be worth it for this commercial. It's so good.
Okay, so where are we? Old school? Old school 69. Great show, guys. Here's another photo I created to show the spiritual battle is already won. Stay salty. Okay, you're pulling that up?
Yep, I can pull it up. I got the ad loading in now. This is
All
what
right.
they shared. Master Fizzop King.
Well, we're almost there. It's
Yeah.
not quite PSYOP, but it's close.
I like that, though. I like it.
Fizzop.
It's a good attempt. Okay, I'm going to play the J-Trit's mom ad real quick. And then we'll come back and finish the rants.
In a quiet town at where beards grow wild and lips dare to crack without permission, one woman has suffered.
Hi, I'm Margie, and I'm J-Triot's mother.
But the world would come to know her by another name, Madame Margie, the moistureless.
The past 6 months, I have been suffering with dry, chapped lips.
Dry, chapped, and unstoppable.
I have tried every lip balm on the market.
Nothing could save her until
Jay came home with a lip balm. It's called Soft Disclosure, and it's all natural.
with one miraculous application, her power awakened.
Within 1 day, my lips were healed. It was miraculous.
But salvation came at a cost. For in the shadowed lands known only as Badlands,
You boys at Badlands are so handsome.
she saw potential,
You're covering up your beautiful faces.
and she made her demand,
You should shave them all off,
or face the consequences. Beard oil will not save you now.
and you'll look so much better.
This summer, moisturize wisely and guard your beards, because Madame Margie, the moistureless, is always watching.
I thought it was so funny because both those things are true. She absolutely was like saved by the lip balm, but she also hates that we have beards.
We have the best commercials ever, though.
I agree. I agree we do. So real testimonial. I'm not shaving my beard. I was going to trim it, but then once I saw that commercial, I was like, I can't do that. I can't even trim it now.
Yeah, I like how we don't have anybody just bullshitting us about lotion on the commercials. It's just J-Treat's mom giving us the real business.
And Alpha dressing up in costumes, having fun with it.
Exactly.
We have a good time. All right, let's do a couple more here. Wedged Gravy says this Iran conflict is the stage for Israel's exposure. I sure hope so, but we've also been saying that about this situation for a long time. But we'll probably be right about it eventually. And if this isn't that, then it was Mike Huckabee's interview on Tucker, I'm told. That is what exposed it.
Yes.
Even though I haven't watched it.
Sooner or later, something's going to wake up those normies.
Someday. Andrew Rawlings says for $5, make logic and reason great again. I appreciate that. We're trying.
Mlarga.
I feel like we could probably figure out
I'm just going with what he wrote.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't play well on merch.
True.
You know, so we'll try to rework that and we'll get it on a shirt. JD Brem, thank you so much. $200 says thank you for your work. Truly appreciate that. JD Brem, very generous. And then $2 from Not Surprised 42 says great discussion. FYI, Substack caved to the Australian government's social media ban and now require ID validation to enter the site. Disappointing they gave into the BS.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. All right, we got 2 videos for the outro. We'll do the Seinfeld one first.
Yeah.
And then we'll close out with one more. These are just so good.
So good.
Okay. Chris, it was a pleasure as always. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you next time.
Kramer, not this again! Jerry, a bullet that size would blow a neck right off. Kramer, what do you know about guns? They said he had strong bones. Yeah.
Ah! It's gonna rob the train!
Stop being a dork!
jester maxing.
Shoshana, I am not jester maxing. You're looks maxing.
Can you give me a ride to school in the morning?
Jerry, do you know about Building 7? Yes, Kramer, you brought it up twice today already.
I'm robbing the train. Hand over the bag.
Stop being a fool! When has a building ever collapsed into its own footprint like that from a fire? Hey!
These damn AI video generators. They think they know everything, but they can't even get a simple human joint right.
You see this? This is the real thing. AI can't render this.
The problem with these machines is that they lack spatial awareness. They don't understand how a body occupies a space.
Algorithms completely fail to grasp the sacred geometry and proportions of the human form.
I mean, look at this crap. Used to need a guy in a mask to make a monster. Now, some code monkey types a prompt and you get this digital Frankenstein.
It's horrific, isn't it?
They lack the solid structure of human bones and joints. The funny thing about synthetic video, it's always the hands and faces that give it away.
Ah, forget about it. These AI guys, they think they can just copy and paste a real guy's anatomy, but they don't get it.
Algorithms simply cannot capture the charming, natural imperfections of a genuine human smile.
It's a damn shame, you know?
You ever notice that? Everything's getting so fake.
I'm not sure I like it.
The manager says it's the future of service.
But where's the artisanal charm, the human touch?
It's strange, isn't it?
Anything can be faked. Any face, any event. Visual truth is obsolete.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
They can make you say anything now. Anything.
But it's not real.
It's not a game anymore. They're fabricating entire battles.
It's like they've never even heard of a reaction shot. Tell me about it. They think action means just shaking the camera and cutting every 2 seconds. And the framing, it's always a garbled mess. You can't tell who's hitting who. I'm just a toddler with a crayon more than this thing. Cheers!
I think it's beautiful. It's like the AI is trying to understand humanity, but it's just glitchy. It's like a soul trying to get out. There must be something real, isn't there?
The only thing that's real is that they're winning.
Do you think these memories can ever truly have a soul?
Wait, so if this is a prompt, then what are we? We're not even having a conversation. We're just lines in a prompt. And if the prompt defines us, then our identity is just a simulation of a simulation.
Algorithmic art is just the latest bourgeois scam churning out soulless garbage for the masses.